Hey, it's Amber, and welcome to season 3 of Politics But Make It Fashion. Come chat with me. "72 Hours of Hell, My Time in the VA" is out now on Amazon. This short story is about my time being in the Veterans Affairs Hospital on a voluntary 72-hour hold. This journey through involuntary hold was marked by humiliation, broken promises, and a profound sense of vulnerability. My path towards seeking help was extremely challenging. Despite the setbacks faced, I hope my journey will lead other veterans and anyone else facing mental health issues to the care and support they might desperately require. 72 Hours of Hell, My Time in the VA is available now on Amazon Kindle. Hey guys, happy Thursday. I know it's a little late for the episode this week, but obviously it was Christmas. But I still wanted to put out an episode this week anyway. So, hey guys. So let's get started. Some updates for me. I did a podcast interview with Curious Podcast, and I was interviewed by Cayman Stowe, and it was such a great interview. I think it probably was one of my most enjoyable interviews with somebody that I've had. And his podcast, Curious Podcast, is a podcast that wants to take a moment to remember we are all trying our best. And I really just love that. And he genuinely likes to just talk to people, and you can really tell that. So the episode, I think he said it's coming out today, Thursday, but y'all, I could be making it up. So I am not even sure, but I will definitely be posting it when it comes out. But I'm pretty sure he said Thursday. So how was everybody's Christmas this year? Mine wasn't my favorite. I really did want to get snow because I do like snow. I don't like driving in snow, but if I don't have anywhere to go, I love it. It's pretty. Um, it looks beautiful. It smells good. The air is crisp. And also up here in NEPA, when it snows, it's not that cold. And that might sound weird for some people who are listening in warm climates because you're thinking snow is cold, but it has to be like, 32 degrees to snow. And yes, it is cold, but it can be too cold to snow. So it could be like 15 degrees, and that is absolutely terrible. Absolutely terrible. But honestly, for me, this Christmas was very lonely for me. And I think it was very lonely for a lot of people. And I know a lot of people felt like it didn't feel like Christmas because the weather's warm and there's just like so much terrible things going on in the world that for me, it was definitely hard to focus on Christmas and getting gifts and doing all that stuff when there's literally just people dying and babies dying every single day. And, so that was hard. And I think being single around the holidays sucks. I love the holidays. It's my favorite time of the year, but a lot of the activities are kind of like couple activities and not necessarily friend activities. So you might be like, oh, well, if you're single, just like do stuff with your friends or whatever. Well, most of them are doing things with their partner, like going to look at Christmas lights together or, you know, going to get hot chocolate and going to cut down a tree and do different things like that. And those are things that we did last year. And there was 4 of us last year. And so then there was 2 different families as well. And we have such a small family that I've always wanted a big holiday, with a lot of people, and it's like chaotic and there's a lot of stuff going on, and it's just fun to spend time with the people that you care about in your family. And so I think I was just missing that from last year, and I definitely was missing all of the like winter activities to try to go do and stuff like that. Like, I mean, there's times I volunteer myself along to the pumpkin patch or to go see Christmas lights or something like that. But, this year I just really didn't feel like doing all that. And I wasn't going to mention it, but then I was just thinking and I was like, loneliness is such a taboo thing, and it's often not talked about, and people feel shame in bringing it up. Um, and I don't think there should be shame in that, because you can love yourself. You can be comfortable going to the movies alone, going to eat alone. I will literally do anything alone, guys. I have no shame in it, like no issue. I actually love going to the movies by myself because I love movies and I love going to the movies. I'll go eat by myself in a heartbeat. I'll be happy as a clam, eating some food on the phone or listening to a podcast or something like that. It's like it doesn't bother me. So whenever I would talk about feeling lonely or things like that, people would bring up, well, you need to love yourself and be okay being alone before you can be with somebody else. And it's like, yes, that's great, but no amount of self-love would replace a relationship, because they're two totally different things. And I think there's a lot of people who just don't really understand that. So then people don't want to talk about loneliness because they almost get judged for it and almost get like criticized for it. And, you shouldn't feel that way. But, and as I said, it was weird celebrating when there is so many things going on in the world, especially in Gaza. And, you know, the Israeli army bombed Bethlehem either the day before Christmas or like after Christmas or something or whatever. And that was just so weird to me because, as many of you guys know, if you listen to the podcast or if you listen to my other podcast that I have called My Culty College, that I grew up very religious. And so I know that they say Jesus was born in Bethlehem, and Bethlehem is in Palestine. So he was Palestinian. I've always known that my, whole entire life and things like that. And so just to know that, like, that's where they say Jesus was born, but yet we're bombing where he was born on the day that we celebrate that. And I just found that to be very disheartening. The Pope also called for peace and for the hostages to be released over the holiday, which I thought was really, really great, and yeah, so send me a DM or leave me a message if you guys had a lonely Christmas or like a weird Christmas. Also been seeing a lot of people talk about the fact that there's a lot of bugs around and a lot of plants still growing and blooming like in people's gardens and stuff. And for me, it's just like, I don't understand how we can say climate change isn't real when it's so warm and there's all these bugs and there's all these plants that are still growing when these are spring plants. Like, that's wild. And it's we're definitely doing some damage here, people. So some stuff that I saw this week that was disheartening, more disheartening things. But there was a study that just came out recently from the VA, and it said veteran suicide increased, reaching 40,020 deaths, an increase of 2,000 from 2020. And it, you know, veteran suicide is an epidemic, and I feel like nobody's doing anything. And people talk about suicide prevention, but what are we actually really doing for it. For Veterans Day this year, I did a couple of videos about what veterans really want. And I reached out to a bunch of veterans that I knew and some vets that I didn't know and asked them, what are things that you would like instead of we support the troops and thank you for your service. And the things that people were naming were simple things that could easily be fixed or be put in place that just aren't put in place. And so those things are leading to people committing suicide, and it's just wild when you think about some of the things just with the VA just being easier, it being an easier process to apply for benefits, and that you have to fight for the things that you deserve, and it's not just people who are faking or lying or, people who, oh, I have, my knees hurt or whatever. There's people who have been blown up and lost limbs and almost died in circumstances and have no disability for it or like 10% disability for it. I had a vet on, Elaine, she's my friend. We served together on the USS Abraham Lincoln, and we talked about it in one of the episodes on the podcast. She had a horrific experience in the Navy giving birth, and she almost died. Her baby almost died. It was absolutely devastating, and she has 10% disability for that. And it's for her C-section scar. It's not even for her sepsis, her multiple organ failure or different things like that, and it's just like that's so wild because why is it like that? The episode was interview series episode 10. It's called Foxtrot Tango November. And we talk about health issues and dealing with the VA and fighting for it. And when I was talking to the vets, a lot of it is financial issues and mental health issues, and being discriminated against for being disabled or being discriminated against for being a veteran, which probably sounds crazy because everybody thinks like, oh my God, you're a vet. You're just going to get a job as soon as you get out the military and everybody wants to hire you. But that's actually not true because a lot of people have this belief that all veterans are just crazy. And at any moment, we're just going to like flip out and go postal in an office space. A lot of people believe that vets can't integrate into an office and fit into like the office culture. I've heard that a lot from people that, oh, do you think they could fit into the culture or like would they get along with people? People think that if you're a vet, you're super stringent and, you're like a drill sergeant. And you can be like that when you first get out. There are some people who had to kind of learn how to not be like that, but there's a lot of people who get out and are able to talk to people just fine, getting discriminated against for housing, for being disabled and not being able to find housing, or the amount of money that people get for disability isn't necessarily enough. And with 40,000 deaths that were suicides, I mean, that's really insane. That is a really big number. And now we're fighting more wars, and we could be sending more people over to fight these wars, and those people are going to get injured and get hurt and have PTSD, and they're going to need help. And we're like, what are we going to do? We're making more vets, but we're not fixing the issues and fixing the actual problems about it. I talk about my experience in the VA dealing with mental health in my book, 72 Hours of Hell, My Time in the VA by Amber Viola. It is out now on Amazon. But I had such a terrible experience, and I literally thought about how other people going through this experience and how people could kill themselves from that experience, and just seeing that so clear. And it's not that I think I'm better than anybody else or anything, but I know that I'm a strong person, and I know that I've been through a lot, I can handle a lot. So I was like, if this is hard on me, if this is like almost breaking me, what is it doing to other people? How are other people handling this? There's been 107 attacks on US forces since October 7th. And that, again, is creating more veterans that are going to need help and service. And the way things are going right now with what's happening in Gaza and Palestine, if these attacks on US forces keep happening, it's going to just get worse, and it's just going to spread, and it's not going to be too great, and they're killing a whole group of people, um, a whole race of people that were there in the beginning, and it's just wild how watching people and listening to people talk, and people openly just saying like, we should wipe them off the map, or we should kill all of them, or everybody's Hamas, so it doesn't matter, or they voted for Hamas, so they wanted them, so they should be killed. And it's like, that was 20 years ago, and most of the people in Palestine are under 20 years old. So those people weren't even alive then. And it's how easy people can just call for the killing of another group of people. And it's really insane. One of the founding members of the Dixie Chicks, Laura Lynch, was killed in a car crash in Texas. Um, they recorded 3 albums with her, and she was replaced by the lead singer, Natalie, who a lot of people know as one of the members of the Chicks, I guess, as they call them. In June of 2020, the band changed their name to the Chicks. The name change came as the U.S. reckoned with its history of racial injustice in the wake of the killing of George Floyd. The term Dixie has often been associated with the slavery era. I'm not a huge fan of country music, but I've always supported the Dixie Chicks because when they got canceled and people were literally flipping out, I thought the whole thing was absolutely ridiculous. And so I was like, no, what? I'm going to support you just because um, people are not supporting you. And this is part of the reason why I really don't believe in cancel culture, because they were quote unquote canceled and it was stupid. So, at a concert in London during their Top of the World tour, the lead singer, Natalie, said the Dixie Chicks were ashamed to be from Texas, the same state as President Bush, and they did not support the invasion of Iraq. And they said that, and they were overseas. And of course, it made the news here, and it became this humongous thing, and people were like bulldozing their CDs, and country music wasn't playing them anymore. And it was just really, really wild how crazy it got by just that comment, and it, and people were just like, this was a time when I was still in the church and I was still young and stuff. So, you know, President Bush was looked at as like this amazing, like, Christian leader, and people were always praying for him and held him in like really high regard. Um, so there was a lot of evangelical backlash about that as well, for not supporting the president and supporting the troops and supporting America, which is really strange, as I just talked about how we're actually not really supporting them at all. But yeah, so that was a wild time. There is a documentary about it that I watched, and I can't remember what it's called right now, but it was really, really good, and it goes into this, and it goes into the backlash, and how the band suffered, and just individually how they all suffered from it and stuff, and how it just got so blown out of proportion. Because originally I thought, before I watched the documentary, I thought she said something way worse than what she actually said. So when I was looking at it, and they have like clips of the concert and stuff, and I was like, that's what she said? See, no, y'all were doing too much. And I'm sorry, burning stuff you already paid for and owned is ridiculous. Like, you already own it. It's not hurting the company. If you don't want to buy from them anymore, then that's a different story. But, you know, burning your clothes or your CDs, and, because you're boycotting Nike or the Dixie Chicks or whatever, it's just ridiculous. You already bought it. They already got your money. And, you know, they don't care about that. So, thank you so much for joining me on this wonderful in-between week of the holidays. That is the weird time where you don't actually know what day it is or anything like that. And we're all just waiting for New Year's. So, much appreciated. And make sure you guys follow us on Spotify, on Apple, wherever you listen to your podcast, and definitely leave us a review because that helps us out. And make sure you follow us on Facebook at Politics But Make It Fashion. We're on TikTok at Politics But Make It Fashion, and we're on Instagram at Politics But Make It Fashion 1. And we will chat soon.